Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Montgomery County Council meeting for today. We are going to begin our public hearings. Our first item is a public hearing on Expedited Bill 27-25, Environmental Sustainability, Community Choice Aggregation. This bill would establish a community choice aggregator, set forth certain requirements of the community choice aggregator's operations, and generally amend the law regarding environmental sustainability in electricity supply. A Transportation and Environment Committee work session is scheduled for October 6th, 2025. Those wishing to submit materials for council's consideration should do so by the close of business on September 29th, 2025. As a reminder of our public hearing testimony guidelines, your comments must be limited to issues relevant to the public hearing topic for which you are testifying and are appropriate for a public meeting. You will hear a tone when your time is up, and we appreciate everyone abiding by their allotted time. I'll call up the first five folks who are here to testify in person. We have Sarah Kugel-Smucker from the Office of the County Executive, Lori McGilray, Mark Posner, Sarah O'Toole, and Cody Hooven. Great. Sarah, you can start whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Council President. So I'm Sarah Kugel-Smucker, Climate Change Officer for Montgomery County, and I'm testifying on behalf of County Executive Elrich in strong support of Expedited Bill 2725, Environmental Sustainability, Community Choice Aggregation, CCA established. This important program has been a long-standing priority of the County Executive, and he commends the Council for advancing it. To meet our ambitious climate change goals, we need to green our electricity supply. And one key tool to help achieve this is Community Choice Aggregation, CCA, aka Community Choice Energy, CCE. CCE enables local governments to become the electricity supplier for residents and small businesses, while the utility still handles delivery, billing, and maintenance. In 2021, in HB 768, the Maryland General Assembly authorized a CCE pilot program in Montgomery County, allowing the county to form its own electricity aggregation program for residents and commercial customers. Expedited Bill 2725 officially establishes a county-run CCE pursuant to that law. Under the draft bill, the Montgomery County Department of Environmental Protection, DEP, would oversee the CCE. CCE is crucial to meeting our climate change goals. It will allow the county to offer residents and businesses electricity with a higher percentage of renewable content than the default utility provides. By aggregating demand and having more flexibility in purchasing, the county can do this cost competitively. The county's 2021 Climate Action Plan, which is our roadmap to meet our climate goals, identifies CCE as the single most important action to reduce community-wide greenhouse gas emissions. When the county becomes the default energy supplier, we will still operate in an energy market that has become more hostile to renewable energy due to federal policy shifts, regional interconnection backlogs, and state regulatory constraints. Overcoming those challenges will require state and federal advocacy. Taking control of our electric supply will, however, allow us to be laser focused on balancing increasing renewable energy through direct purchase or through renewable energy credits and controlling costs during these tumultuous times. The county executive recommends some minor language changes to the draft bill to give our department the clarity they need to implement the program, and DEP staff will discuss those recommended changes with committee staff in the coming weeks. To conclude, thank you, Council President Stewart, for your leadership on this issue and the bill's co-sponsors, Council Vice President Juando, Council Members Glass, Balcom, Lutke, Mink, Friedson, Katz, Sales, Fanny Gonzalez for supporting this important climate action.
Thank you very much. Ms. Lori McGilray.
Good afternoon, Council President Stewart and Council members. My name is Lori McGilvray, and I want to thank you, Council President Stewart, for sponsoring this important bill. And I'm pleased to speak today on behalf of the Climate Coalition Montgomery County. Our coalition of 20 organizations and hundreds of members is really excited to bring CCA to Montgomery County, and we urge a speedy passage of Bill 2725. So on a personal note, I'm really thrilled about this next step because I, along with others that are here today, advocated for the original bill in the General Assembly and then spent 2 years representing residential ratepayers on the Public Service Commission work group, which developed the CCA regulations. So the bill really represents an important step in bringing community choice aggregation to the county and to implementing the #1 energy action in the county's climate action plan. So you have our written testimony, and I'm just going to emphasize a few benefits of the bill. So first, it offers Montgomery County residential and small commercial ratepayers a choice for their electricity supply. Having a choice is really important. And anyone can opt out. So right now, few retail suppliers are offering us cleaner energy supply options, and there isn't enough community solar to meet the demand. So that leaves us with only utility standard offer service, which has little renewable content right now because they are paying compliance fees rather than buying renewable energy to meet the state requirements. So CCAs in other states have been able to provide more renewable energy to meet a large number of electric customers and at a price that's competitive with utility standard offer service. And we really deserve the same sort of choice. Secondly, CCA aims to provide cleaner renewable product at a price that's hopefully at or hopefully below standard offer service. And other CCAs have done this. In fact, Lean Energy, a nonprofit that's dedicated to accelerating the transition to clean and renewable power and maintaining affordable electric rates, completed a CCA study in 2023 and found that CCAs increased the amount of renewable energy on the grid and on average provided lower electricity rates than utilities, all while providing greater consumer protection and lowering greenhouse gas emissions. So at a time when we're confronted with the daunting effects of climate change, skyrocketing electricity costs, and the fear that utilities are not doing all they can to meet renewable energy requirements and keep rates affordable, implementing a CCA will allow us to do something about these challenges. We look forward to working with you and DEP staff on the details of the aggregation plan, and we're committed to educating Montgomery County ratepayers about the advantages of CCA and helping to achieve broad participation to ensure a successful pilot. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Posner?
Thank you. Mark Posner for the Montgomery County Sierra Club. The Sierra Club strongly supports Bill 2725, urges its prompt adoption. In 2021, as you know, the Montgomery County committed itself to establishing this new cost-effective and equitable way for county residents to meet our electricity needs, CCA or Community Choice Aggregation, or perhaps CCE, by obtaining the local legislation to begin this process and to set up the pilot program in Montgomery County. As was described before, this will allow county residents to pool our substantial electricity requirements, our buying power, and to employ this substantial purchasing power to buy electricity for county residents from a favorable source, meaning considering such factors as cost and the environmental characteristics of the energy source. And as has been described, this is particularly important because this will allow the county to move forward with its ambitious greenhouse gas reduction goals by obtaining energy from a clean, renewable source. Implementing CCA is a several-step process. The PSC has completed its first step. By adopting regulations, the county participated in that process, and in doing so, reaffirmed its strong support for CCA. Now it's time for the county council, for the county to adopt legislation, which is the next step set out in the local bill. This will allow the county to move forward with its business plan, known as the aggregation plan, and that will establish many of the details of the CCA. Once that plan is produced and is developed, that will come back to the county council for review and then submitted to the PSC for approval. The Sierra Club has strongly supported the county throughout this process. We submitted testimony to the General Assembly in support of the local bill, and then also submitted comments to the PSC. So we look forward now to continue to participate in this process and to support the county as it moves forward with this important initiative. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah O'Toole?
Good afternoon, President Stewart and council members. My name is Sarah O'Toole. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak today. I'm originally from Maryland, and I'm here today as a former resident of the state and member of the younger generation to voice my support for the CCA pilot program in Montgomery County as one of the many necessary means to addressing the worsening climate crisis with a local community-based solution. During my time in college, I studied sustainability and conflict resolution. As a student of these two subjects, I've often been frustrated by how many government responses fail to reflect the urgency of climate crisis, ignoring the real and escalating consequences of inaction. That's why the launch of a CCA in Montgomery County stands out. It breaks that pattern, and it's a concrete, forward-thinking step towards climate action, and just as importantly, gives community members a genuine voice in shaping the future of energy in their neighborhoods. Growing up in Maryland, I remember hearing my parents talk about their energy bills monthly, always with the same sentiment and tone that they lacked control and power in getting electricity, and that prices seemed to always be increasing. It wasn't until I took a course on sustainable energy in college that my perspective shifted. I learned that communities don't have to be monopolized by large utility companies. There are more democratic, community-centered ways to manage energy, like community energy aggregation. Best of all, this isn't just a theoretical concept. Programs like this are in practice all throughout the nation and working to bring more transparency, cost competitiveness, and clean energy to communities. As a student of both conflict resolution and sustainability, I see CCAs as a unique intersection of these two fields. The climate crisis represents a fundamental conflict between the status quo and the urgent need for change. Resolving this crisis requires inclusive solutions where all stakeholders have a voice and a seat at the table. And that's exactly what CCAs enable. They shift decision-making power from large utilities back to communities, empower people to take control of their energy future. In doing so, CCAs can create the conditions necessary for meaningful, equitable climate action. Growing up in Maryland, I've always felt proud of our state's ability to lead the nation in the fight for a more democratic and equitable society. Whether it's promoting sustainability and climate justice, protecting women's reproductive rights, or advancing education reform, Maryland consistently demonstrates a commitment to building a more just and inclusive system. Now, Montgomery County can lead once again by adopting this bill and becoming the first CCA in the state, continuing to push the narrative forward and set an example for others to follow. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, Cody Hooven,
Thank you. Good afternoon, President Stewart, Vice President Jawando, and council members. Getting over a cold, if you can hear it in my voice. I'm Cody Hooven, Executive Director of Lean Energy US. Thank you for quoting some of our work. Lean Energy is the only national nonprofit that represents CCA, CCE, we haven't settled on the name, across the country, communities serving over 40 million residents across 10 states. I'm here to strongly support your legislation today. And it matters now because as was mentioned, with uncertain federal direction on clean energy and affordability, local governments must step up. Montgomery County can deliver what your residents are asking for: stable pricing, renewable energy, and local benefits. As I mentioned in my written testimony that was submitted, CCAs save on average of 2 to 25% of costs for their customers. That's a nationwide average with greater price stability than investor-owned utilities. CCA communities also capture about 60% of the U.S. voluntary renewable energy market, which is pretty significant, especially considering they only serve about 10% of U.S. households so far. They also dramatically decrease CO2 emissions, which is, I hear, very important to you all. lowering about 38% lower CO2 emissions than traditional utilities. And then, of course, important to all of our cities now, they provide economic benefits. They're generating billions in clean energy investment and thousands of jobs in construction of clean energy and running the facilities themselves. CCAs can also adapt to your local priorities. So what's important to you is really important to drive your own CCA. Your values can become the North Star for your CCA. You can enable tailored programs that serve your constituents based on what they're interested in, whether that's rooftop solar, just lower costs, EV infrastructure, supporting disadvantaged communities, whatever is important to you all. And those profits that you generate, anything above the cost of running your program, can be invested right back into your communities rather than being sent off to distant shareholders. And there's a lot of accountability and transparency that simply investor-owned utilities just can't match. So there is concern with energy market complexity. I was told the markets are shifting, the ground is shaking, what you should wait. And I can tell you, having been in this industry for a while, the ground is always shifting. It's not a reason to wait. You're entering a market with complexity that all market participants experience across the board, whether they're investor-owned utilities or CCAs. We have an extensive network of support, so please consider us a resource, whether it's peer-to-peer connection, tapping into different consultants or suppliers for information or resources. We're here to help. We actually provide better solutions, CCAs do, because we are driven by serving our communities rather than serving shareholders. So please consider us a connection and a resource, and thank you for the time. I'm happy to help any way I can.
Thank you. Thank you for being here today. That is our first panel of speakers. I'll next call up Julian Gedasica, Brian Anlou, and Jorge Aguilera. All right. Julian, you can start. Oh, you have to press the button so we can hear you. Perfect.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Very good. President Stewart, council members, member of the public, good afternoon. My name is Julian Gedasica. Good job on the pronunciation, by the way. I work with a company named Calpine Community Energy. We provide services to 300 communities, and we help them launch and operate CCAs across the nation. And before I worked for them for the past 5 years, I used to work for UCLA, where I led a very large team of researchers, and we published numerous reports on CCAs. And so over those 10 years, I'd like to summarize a few facts and share them with you today. First question, does this really work? If you look at the trend, 10 years ago, California had only one CCA. Today, there are 15 million customers, which is a third of the population receiving CCAs. And that's the same no matter what you look at. New Hampshire launched in 2013. 2 years later, 60 communities have launched CCAs. That trend is valid in New England, the Midwest, and beyond. Are customers satisfied? When you look at the numbers, we looked at the retention rate of our CCA clients. 90%, more than 90% of the clients stay. That means they choose to stay. That means there is a high satisfaction of the services they receive. So why do residents embrace it? For many, it's the savings. For others, it's rate stability. For some, it's just cleaner electricity. Personally, I think CCAs bring together the best of both worlds. If you think about it, on one side, you have private partners focused on efficiency, cost, and innovation. On the other end, there are people like you, elected officials, accountable to the public, people that care about customer satisfaction. Together, it's the best private-public partnership you can think of, where incentives align and focus on customer satisfaction. Finally, in my years of researching environmental policies at UCLA, I studied hundreds of laws, trying to quantify cost and benefits. And by far, I rarely saw a policy like CCA that delivered both environmental and financial benefits the way they do. So to finish, Montgomery County now has the chance to lead Maryland by launching the state's first CCA. You won't be alone. You'll be part of a growing national movement. You'll be supported by vendors, and you'll give your residents what they want: cleaner energy, a choice, and control. So thank you so much for your time and attention. Please don't hesitate to reach out. My email is in the file. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Brian Anlou.
Brian Anlou on behalf of the Apartment and Office Building Association, here with Kevin Carey with the AOBA Alliance. Thank you to Council President Stewart and the co-sponsors for introducing this bill, and Council President Stewart for meeting with AOBA. While AOBA members support stabilizing energy costs and increasing renewable energy supply, AOBA is concerned about the impact that the bill will have on members. Unlike residential customers whose retail energy supply market disappeared because of SB 1 last year, commercial customers can already purchase 100% renewable energy supply at competitive prices. In fact, nearly a third of AOBA members already do. In addition, many AOBA members use price-lowering strategies to keep energy costs low, which in turn lowers housing costs for everyone. AOBA is concerned that because the CCA is opt-out, it would be the default instead of standard offer service. This could lead to AOBA members being mistakenly enrolled in the CCA when their contracts expire, and it could result in higher energy costs and an administrative burden for members who manage hundreds of accounts and often utilize a bill service to manage that many accounts. So it could take many months before members realize that they've been switched. And for these reasons, we urge the council to either exempt small commercial from the bill or make small commercial opt-in instead of opt-out. You have detailed written testimony from our general counsel with a little bit more information about some of the administrative burdens and potential impacts. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Jorge Aguilar.
Thank you, President Stewart and other council members. My name is Jorge Aguilar, and I'm here on behalf of Food and Water Watch and our 32,000 members in the county to urge the passing of Bill 2725 to begin the process of establishing an official community choice aggregator. We are proud to have been one of the groups that worked with the Montgomery County delegation, the entire delegation, in supporting the enabling legislation that passed in 2020, and really were one of the advocates that sat through the regulatory hearings at the PSC, where multiple stakeholders, including AOBA, went through and really worked out many of the guidance rules for the establishment of this aggregator. And I can assure you, even so many questions have come up, even the ones that AOBA has brought up. And I think that the PSC has done a really good job of incorporating that into many of the regulatory rules in place to which this aggregator will fit into and get reviewed. So I want to add that we continue following this as Food and Water Watch because the establishment of the CCA has been a top energy action goal of the county climate action plan for years. So we are really excited that it's gotten to this point because we believe the CCA will help the county meet a good number of its climate change goals while providing good options and choices for residents in their electricity options. Most importantly, we feel that this will give the county the ability to exercise local control over the energy-related decisions. So again, as part of this long process, we have been confident that the county and its staff is working diligently and efficiently. And like I said, it's been 5 years. But they've been working very, very hard to come up with a good plan for this aggregator as part of this PSC process. So we look forward to helping to ensure good public participation and enrollment in this as it moves forward. So again, I urge you all to pass this bill, and thank you again for your time.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who was here in person. We do have one person online. We have Scott Schneider online to give testimony.
Thank you, Vice President Jawando, President Stewart, and the whole council. My name is Scott Schneider. I'm a 40-year resident of Silver Spring, and I'm testifying in support of Expedited Bill 2725. This bill is long overdue. It's been several years since the state legislature passed legislation to allow Montgomery County to become the default energy supplier for county residents. Now, with energy prices soaring, county residents can finally have the bargaining power to negotiate better rates as well as, importantly, cleaner energy. This legislation is an important step forward in addressing climate change. Montgomery County can be a leader in taking action to wrest power back from the energy companies and force them to change to a cleaner energy supply. Solar and wind energy are rapidly becoming the cheapest energy source and forcing the companies to rapidly transition is in everybody's best interest. I did read the Lean Energy report from 2023, and it demonstrates that this approach has been successful in 8 other states where it's been implemented. Please pass this legislation and implement it as soon as possible. Thank you for taking bold action on this issue.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I do want to recognize we have a former council fellow here, Indigo Fernandez, who is worked at the council and now is a fellow in the audience. So just wanted to say hello and thanks for coming. And those are the public hearing is now closed on expedited bill 27-25, and we'll move on to our next item. Item number 6 is a public hearing on a resolution to approve the lease disposition of county parking lot number 12 located at 1920 Seminary Road in Silver Spring, Maryland, and Colesville commuter lot located at 13504 New Hampshire Avenue in Silver Spring. Council action is tentatively scheduled for next week, September 16th. Those wishing to submit material for council's consideration should do so by the close of business today, September 9th, 2025. There are no registered voters for this hearing. This public hearing is now closed. The next agenda item is number 7, is a public hearing on action on resolution to approve the declaration of no further need of Montgomery History Disposition, Gray Courthouse. Council action is scheduled immediately following this hearing. As a reminder of our public hearing testimony guidelines, your comments must be limited to issues relevant to the public hearing topic for which you are testifying and are appropriate for a public meeting. You will hear a tone when your time is up, and we appreciate everyone abiding by their allotted time. And I have Matt Logan, who's here, and you brought a friend. Mr. Logan.
Am I on? Okay. Council President Stewart, members of the County Council, thank you for this opportunity to discuss Montgomery History's plans for the use of lease space in the historic courthouse. I've got Sammy Hatton, our collections manager, with us as well. We have served as the county's historical society since 1944, and we've amassed a collection of 10,000 objects encompassing a history of our county from pre-contact to the present day. Our collection includes textiles, household goods, agricultural tools, furniture and decorative arts, political ephemera, archaeological relics, medical equipment, and many other items, all of which help to tell the story of Montgomery County. With a collection of this size and scope, it's imperative that we utilize best practices and adhere to professional standards to ensure the objects are properly stored, conserved, and exhibited. Obviously, that means we must provide storage that meets strict environmental requirements, including temperature and humidity controls, UV protection, and pest management. It also requires that we have strict access and security protocols in place. Finding suitable space for the storage of our collections has been a priority for the last decade. We've explored over a dozen different facilities, and the Gray Courthouse is by far the best option because with fairly straightforward modifications to the HVAC system, window insulation, and security features, it will work perfectly to meet our needs. An additional benefit of the Gray Courthouse is that it's located directly across the street from 4 Courthouse Square, the historic Farmers Banking and Trust building, which we purchased earlier this year. We're in the process of developing plans to create the Montgomery County History Center, the first facility of its kind in the county. Planned as a hub featuring space for exhibits, lectures, receptions, an oral history recording studio, and offices, as well as the home of the Jane Sween Research Library and Special Collections. The newly renovated space is expected to open in 2026, in time for the county's 250th anniversary celebration. Of course, I'd be happy to provide a tour to any of you who would like to see the interior before renovation work begins in December. Again, thank you for this opportunity to update you on our plans and for prioritizing the protection of our material culture by approving the lease of the 4th floor of the Gray Courthouse. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. That is all the testimony we have for this public hearing. This public hearing is now closed. Thank you both for joining us. We're going to move on now to the action portion of this item. Is there a motion to approve the declaration of no further need Montgomery History Disposition Gray
Second.
Courthouse? I have Council Vice President Jawando move, second by Councilmember Friedson. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And that is unanimous. Congratulations. Awesome. All right, now we will, our public hearings for the day are done. We will now move and resume sitting as the district council for the next 4 items. The first one is an introduction of local map amendment H-155 Pike Center Fee 1807 LLC, and I will turn it over to Ms. Nadeau.
Thank you. So LMA H155 is a property in Rockville. The council received this LMA on July 10th, and there were no requests for oral argument. Actually, action is tentatively scheduled for end of September, at which point you'll hear a full report from the hearing examiner.
Terrific. Not seeing any comments. This local map amendment is introduced. Next for our consideration is introduction and an action on a resolution to extend the deadline for council action on hearing examiner's report and recommendation on local map amendment H-155 Pike Center Fee 1807 LLC. Ms. Nadeau?
So this was the LMA that you just introduced.
Yeah.
So since this was received on July 10th for LMAs, you have 60 days to act due to the August recess and needing to send out notices. This resolution would extend the deadline to act to November 28th.
Great. All right, we'll move on to the action portion. Do I have a motion on this resolution? Councilmember Balcom moved. I see Councilmember Cass second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And that is unanimous. All right, item 3 is an introduction of local map amendment H-157 Paramount Self-Storage LLC. Ms. Nadeau.
So LMA H157 is also a property in Rockville. This LMA was received on August 8th. Again, there were no requests for oral argument for this one as well. The deadline for action of this local map amendment is October 7th, and it looks like this is tentatively scheduled for action the same day as 155.
All right. This local map amendment is introduced, and we will move on now to introduction of zoning text amendment 25-12, University Boulevard Overlay Zone. A public hearing is scheduled for October 14th, 2025 at 1:30 p.m. Ms. Nadeau?
So ZTA 2512 goes with the University Boulevard Corridor Plan, which you heard about this morning. I will note here for the public that the ZTA is separate from the plan, so it's a public hearing just on the contents of the ZTA, which implements some of the zoning recommendations that are in the plan. So the council will review the ZTA after PHP goes through the plan itself in case any changes need to be made.
Great. All right. This zoning text amendment is introduced. All right. The final item for the district council and the final item on our agenda today is consideration of action on zoning text amendment 25-06 Vehicle Service Filling Station. The Planning, Housing, and Parks Committee recommends approval with amendments. I will turn it over to the Chair of PHP, Councilmember Friedson.
Thank you, Madam President. This is zoning text amendment 2506, vehicle service filling station. It was introduced on May 6th, as noted. The lead sponsors were Councilmember Mink, myself, and Council Vice President Jawando. There's a public hearing on June 10th. The Planning, Housing, and Parks Committee met and had a work session on June 23rd. The committee voted 2-1, recommending approval with amendments. Councilmember Fanny Gonzalez voted against, and ultimately we went through the zoning text amendment and made a couple amendments, one of which was a question of how to make the measurement, so to speak, which is the primary purpose of the clarification and clarity sought in the zoning text amendment. There was a suggestion from the Planning Board and Planning Department. There was another suggestion from Councilmember Fanny Gonzalez. Ultimately, the committee decided to go with the recommendation that came forward by the Planning Board and Planning Department. I think Councilmember Fanny Gonzalez may speak to this later, but that was ultimately the main topic of conversation during the committee work session. There was also a technical amendment that we agreed to as well, and clarifying amendment. As drafted, it was intended for this to be a clarifying amendment. It was not clear of what exactly the measurement was and from where it should be or would be. The zoning text amendment amends the setback requirements for a filling station by clarifying that measurement for filling stations that dispense at least 3.6 million gallons per year is from the hose. The planning board recommended an environmentally conscious amendment, which the committee adopted and is recommending measuring the 500-foot setback from the underground tank for environmentally sensitive areas, using the language must locate all underground storage tanks at least 500 feet from any wetland, stream, river, floodplain, or environmentally sensitive area. Recommending that another amendment that provides some predictability if new facilities are constructed after the filling station is established, they will not make the filling station non-conforming. That's more of a technical amendment, that the 500-foot setback would still need to be honored. As noted, it was a 2-to-1 vote in the adoption of the amendment of the 500-foot setback and as well as the zoning text amendment itself. With that, I'm not sure if Ms. Nadeau has anything that I have missed. I'm happy to turn it over to her first and then yield back to you, Madam President.
I have nothing to add. I will yield back because I believe Councilmember Fanny Gonzalez is presenting an amendment.
Before we do that, I have in the queue Councilmember Mink.
Thank you. First, I wanted to thank the PHP committee for their thoughtful analysis and for ultimately passing the ZTA. I know we're going to continue conversations today, but much appreciate that. This ZTA, as the chair stated, is to formally clarify that the existing 500-foot setback for large filling stations is going to be measured from the pumps. And I'll note that that's already the standard in the city of Gaithersburg and Howard County. It's not specified here, and DPS practice has been to measure from the pumps or from the canopy. So this CTA is going to give potential applicants certainty for how their projects will be treated. Important to note for my district especially that this ZTA is critical for the Viva White Oak project, the ZTA as amended by the PHP committee. It is needed to clarify setbacks within a tight site so that Costco, I get to say it, so that Costco can locate a new store on the Viva White Oak site with a filling station. Without this ZTA as passed by PHP, that Costco filling station will not have the certainty that they need to make a huge investment in locating at Viva White Oak, and they have made it clear that without it, they will need to find a different location, which will be outside of Montgomery County. Also important to note, the developer, MCB, has also recruited several other large retailers for Viva White Oak who have now co-tenancy agreements, stating that they will come only if Costco is located at Viva White Oak. The ZTA, as it was amended and passed by the PH committee, does address an environmental concern, as noted, brought forth by the planning board by clarifying that the setback for underground storage tanks will be measured at 500 feet from any wetland, stream, river, floodplain, or environmentally sensitive area. And I appreciate the PHP committee for accepting that amendment. And finally, I'll just say that residents of East County came out really strong, not just to our public hearing, but in many community meetings with MCB, with my office, with many of you, in very strong support of the Viva White Oak project, as well as specifically of this ZTA as introduced for the purposes of being able to move this project forward, which as amended, it will do. We heard from civic associations, nonprofits, and the Greater Silver Spring Chamber of Commerce that this ZTA is critical for the most important project that East County has seen in decades. I know, and I want to acknowledge that residents in Wheaton and Kensington have long opposed the Costco in Wheaton having a filling station, and it is important to note that the ZTA does not make it any more likely that Costco would attempt to add a filling station in Wheaton. In fact, Costco put in writing this week that they have no interest in a filling station in Wheaton because the space considerations would mean that the station would be directly in front of the main entrance to the store. So, again, very much appreciate the PHP committee's work, including accepting that amendment regarding the underground tanks, and I look forward to hopefully today passing the ZTA as amended by the PHP committee and taking another huge step forward together in bringing investment, equity, and historic economic development to East County. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Mink. We have a PHP recommendation before. Oh, okay, now you're there. Okay, sorry, Councilmember Fanny Gonzalez. It wasn't there. It wasn't popping up.
Thank you so much for your work, and I'm gonna make it very quickly. The amendment that I'm moving forward is the same one that I presented in PHP, and I think it's just important to put this on the record. Obviously, I want Costco to come to East County. As you all know, I really wanna have every single part of the county, but especially East County in my district, to flourish. So I want to put that on the record. Second of all, I went through this process when I was on the planning board. The intention for this ZTA was actually to measure from the boundary. Why? Because you include cars that are just waiting to get gas. Okay, cars that are queuing and producing all this pollution. It was a health and environmental issue for us. And that was the reason why I supported the 500 foot ZTA back in the days, because of those health issues, that including queuing of the cars, and the intention was to measure from the boundary, not the pumps. So this amendment that I put forward is just to clarify that. Is that simple. It's not saying we don't want Costco's gas station. It's just saying where we need to measure, just because it's important for the people who are living in the neighborhood. And with that, I move to introduce it.
Great. We have an amendment on the table. Do I have a second for the amendment? Councilmember Glass seconded. Now we'll have discussion of the amendment. First, I have Council Vice President Jawando.
Thank you. I just wanted to chime in as the other member of PHP and co-sponsor of the bill. I'm glad of the ZTA, excuse me. I'm glad we're going to move this forward. My first job was working at the Beltsville Costco, and which is I'm super excited that it will, if we can pass this, which we absolutely must pass, it will be moving to the White Oak area, and and they are a model employer. I remind people that I was getting paid $10 in 1996 an hour. That's the starting salary. It's much higher now, and they have great benefits. So in addition to community amenities and needs and bringing other anchor businesses, they are a great employer that has great benefits and pays good wages. And so I think anything that would get in the way of that is not good. And when you're balancing the environmental, I'm glad we made the amendment in PHP, because it is important that we make sure to balance the environmental impact of this in measuring from the pump, especially in this new development where you can also add other buffers and things around it as it comes. I think will be very sufficient, and as far as managing traffic. So it's very different from the Wheaton site as well in that regard. So I would hope that I won't be voting for this amendment, but I understand the rationale, but I think we need to move this forward, and I want to thank Councilmember Mink for her work on this ZTA. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Councilmember Mink.
And I also want to acknowledge that this amendment does have good intentions, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate the work and the thought that has gone into it with environmental advocates, as well as Councilmember Natalie Fanny Gonzalez. I, of course, will still need to strongly oppose it. Obviously, environmental concerns are really important to me. I appreciate the PHP committee for their work to, as the Vice President put it, to find an appropriate balance with environmental concerns by making that amendment that was recommended by the Planning Board. This amendment, though, would significantly change the ZTA to have it measuring not from the pumps, but instead from the queues, so much so that, again, it would make it impossible for Costco to come with a filling station and thus to come at all to Viva White Oak. We don't put this particular type of burden on any other uses that involve queuing. A McDonald's, a Goodwill, a food bank, or even a standard size filling station that has good prices and attracts enough customers to create a queue. We don't put this standard on any of them. And so let's please not set a different standard now for an important project that is ready to go, ready to march forward in East County. I appreciate the conversation, but I will be voting against this amendment and ask colleagues to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, not seeing any other colleagues in the queue to speak to the amendment. We have amendment before us. All those in favor of the amendment, please raise your hand. I have 1, 2. All those opposed, please raise your hand. And that is 9, 2 to 9. The amendment does not move forward. Any other colleagues wishing to speak? Councilmember Glass.
Thank you, Madam President. Appreciate this discussion and appreciate Councilmember Fani Gonzalez putting forward that amendment. This really feels like a continuation of the conversation from 10 years ago. And let me just start by saying we need Viva White Oak in East County, full stop. That has been a project that has been talked about for so very long, going back beyond 10 years, before the Costco in Wheaton opened. And the Costco in Wheaton, it was said, was not going to open unless they got a mega gas station. It's there. I was there this weekend. It's doing well by my account. And so I'm not necessarily sure that there's any difference. But getting beyond that, I also just have a philosophical concern in this day and age about building mega gas stations and all. When we're talking about fossil fuels and oil and gas and trying to install more EV charging systems all throughout the county and the state and the country, I just don't think facilitating and building mega gas stations is the direction we should go in. And based on the history of the Costco in Wheaton, I'm not quite sure this ZTA is necessary. With that, I will be opposing the ZTA.
Okay. Thank you. Not seeing any other colleagues in the queue. We have a recommendation from the Planning, Housing, and Parks Committee. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Lukey?
Yes.
Councilmember Lukey votes yes. Councilmember Mink?
Yes.
Councilmember Mink votes yes. Councilmember Sales?
Yes.
Councilmember Sales votes yes. Councilmember Friesen?
Yes.
Councilmember Friesen votes yes. Councilmember Glass?
No.
Councilmember Glass votes no. Councilmember Katz?
Yes.
Councilmember Katz votes yes. Councilmember Albornoz?
Yes.
Councilmember Albornoz votes yes. Councilmember Fani Gonzalez?
No.
Councilmember Fani Gonzalez votes no. Councilmember Balcom?
Yes.
Councilmember Balcom votes yes. Councilmember Jawando?
Yes.
Councilmember Jawando votes yes. Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Stewart votes yes.
Okay, that is the ZTA, and it passes, and that is our last item on our agenda for today. Thank you, Ms. Nadeau, for all your work, and our meeting is now adjourned.